Hi and welcome. This is Kristen from Life of Crafting, and I'm going to do a 6x6 paper pack reveal, and then I'm going to make as many cards as I can out of this packet from Gina Designs that's called Merry Little Christmas. So I'm at my weekend away. Actually turned more into a week. I'm going to be here from Tuesday to Sunday. I'm at the Flanders in Ocean City, New Jersey, and I do an annual weekend away with my friend Vicky, but I've extended it to do a couple extra days here in the beginning to make some stuff to feature for you all. So as I mentioned in other videos, I tend to make about 2,500 to 3,000 Christmas cards to use in my online retail business as a giveaway for my clients. So I need a lot of cards. So I'm hoping that by doing this type of project that I can get a lot of cards out of the packs, and I want to make them nice that people want to use them. So my objective in this is as many cards as I can get out of this paper pack, making them very beautiful looking, but not using a lot of time in this. And I want to keep them relatively flat and more on the simple side. So without further ado, I just bought this paper pack from Gina Designs. It's called Merry Little Christmas, and I've been introduced recently to her inks, and I love them. So this is new for me because I wasn't really sure. I had been coming and doing Stampin' Up most of the time. Is the overwhelming majority amount of products I've used in like probably about 7 or 8 years of stamping that I've been doing now. So I wasn't sure of her color as far as how to prepare myself for this. So I bought 3 different paper packs that were Christmas, and I bought the matching inks. So this paper pack I will go through is supposed to have cherry red, red hot, Christmas pine, and dark sage. So this is her first pack. I may be able to cut out some of these strips and use, I thought this was beautiful if I could find a way to use this and maybe pop in my own sentiment to this. I'm not sure yet. This is, like I said, my first with her experience, and I found that the paper packs, it says you get 24 sheets, 3 of each design. They are single-sided. I did find that they have a little bit of a glossier finish to the papers. I was a little surprised with that. It's not that more, this feels like a real like finished type of paper, unlike your cardstock. To me, cardstock seems like it has the fibers and stuff you can see in the paper. That's not what you're going to find with Gina K. They're very, like I said, very finished would be the way I'd have to say it. So the first pattern, again, because you get, I guess 8 patterns, because it says you get 24 sheets, 3 of each. So this seems to me like a very Greek key kind of pattern. This would be the Christmas pine, but she does not mention what the lighter green is, and I'm not familiar with her paper pack or her color inks yet to be able to tell you. It almost looks like a pistachio, maybe, if she has something in her color family that's that lighter green, but the darker green in this pattern would be the pine. So then she features this one, and that is just, to me, very beautiful, a very botanical, but still not overly done, that you could still make different things out of that, as far as holly and other things. Like you can use a pine bough or whatever. I'm noticing in this that the Christmas pine is there, obviously. She's got the 2 reds, the cherry red and the red hot. I don't know what color this lighter brown is. Now, I do have a color called, I'm going through my stuff. I don't see it right here. I have one that's called Beach Sand. I'm wondering, or Beachy Shores or something is one that I have from her. I'm wondering if that may be the background color, but I really don't know because she doesn't really specify. Then she has this very Baroque kind of flowing scroll pattern. This one is kind of going to throw me for a loop a little bit because this is her, I believe, the cherry red. And I was deciding I wanted to give her papers a try. So the only one I brought in was Christmas pine. So I have probably the closest I could find was, this is Cherry Cobbler from Stamping Up. Seemed to be about the closest I could get for that. Can't speak for the ink, but the paper, again, because it's got this glossier finish, was a little more harder to match up to try and find some clear cardstock. So I wanted to kind of lay these out. So then the fourth in this is this striped, and this one is great. I really love what I think I can do with this. It has the snowflakes. The two reds are in here, and there's a little bit, I don't know if you can see, it's like a diamond print in there. And the stripe, I wouldn't say it's a multi-width, but because of them having these different colors in there, it really does give an idea that there's almost like a big wide open space here, because that green kind of does match very closely to the brown that's in there. And again, it's the same brown that's in this one. If you're familiar with Gina K inks, please let me know if there's a color that comes to mind for you, because I'm thinking, like I said, I'm using this as a way to be introduced to her colors. So this is another, oh, this is the same print as this one, but if you compare them, she's got a different green. This must be the dark sage, this like brownish green that's in there. So it's a very close pattern, but she changed those two colors of the leaves in there. And then the next pattern is the same as the red, but it's a wider version of it, and this is also the dark sage. Again, that was kind of a little much for me to try and figure out. I do have the ink for that, and I found, I'm trying to go through them, and it's not easy because, I'm not in my normal crafting space, so you kind of try to make do. This is the dark sage, so that's why I'm a little confused. Until I start really stamping with it. The picture on the front does not look to be this. I do have the color of warm cocoa. That seemed to be more of a match to me, but she doesn't mention that on the website as one of the coordinating colors. So until I start, really playing with these inks, I'm gonna have to say that I'm not real familiar with if that's really the dark sage or this is another color, because she's not mentioning. This paper I really love. I love the nostalgic. I love that it reminds me of the Jetsons cartoon, but that star like that, it almost looks like this, like what they use in Diamondback metals and stuff. It's just really, really cool. So I do see in here the red. No idea what this brown is or this other green, the light green background. Again, no idea. To me, I'm just going to run with not necessarily this red, but I'll go through the papers and the cardstocks. I'm going to try and just pull the red out of this because that's all I can figure out that was in here. And I do have the Christmas pine that I'm not sure if it's going to match, but we're going to try. We'll see. And then the last one I have is this one, which is a Christmas pine with a polka dot, but some of the polka dots were left open and some were not. So that's a little bit, non-Christmas looking. You could probably use almost every one of these almost as a non-Christmas. There's just, I would say this one is a definite Christmas, but some of these other ones you could definitely use year-round. It's not a overly in-your-face, screaming Christmas kind of pattern. So in my review of this, ones that I see that I really kind of want to hide in the background and just use as an accent is definitely this one. These ones are kind of busy for me, so I'm anticipating I'm going to probably hide this in the background and this in the background, and probably hide this in the background. So, I'm kind of breaking these up now because I'm starting to dissect in my mind. I'm going to be using some card sketches, like what is it that I'm looking for is going to be the background, kind of providing the color of the card, And then I see these being more of the beauty of the card, if that makes any sense to you. So that's kind of how I look at it. I'm not saying that those aren't pretty patterns, but not by any means. But for me to bring my Christmas message, these are the ones bringing the Christmas message. These will not. So having said that, I'm bringing in some cardstock that I think I'm going to match up in here. And briefly, I will say I already introduced you to what I think is going to be the Stampin' Up's Cherry Cobbler. Unfortunately, I did not seem to bring a lot of that with me. This is a textured paper I just got from Hobby Lobby. This is the Valentine Red. I anticipate using that more in some of these ones where the more brighter red is being used. So I feel like this red could be used for any of that. I didn't need a whole lot, so I have a feeling that this is basically going to be a layer to this one for me. And then I have, this is a Hobby Lobby color just known as brown that I felt could match in there. Don't know where I got this one from. This is just a regular brown. And this is the Gina K Christmas time. And my son just brought me some Starbucks. Aren't you the best? Sorry, I'm back. I had to take a break, get my Starbucks going. So I'm thinking I want to start with this Mojo Monday sketch number, looks like 547. And one of the tricks I've learned in getting things done quickly is to make a couple iconic pieces and get them produced. And then, because I'll have, let's say, 6 of something, I can make them in a production line, but then using them in the piece, that's the finished piece, would make things go faster, because it's also going to make my decisions much, would limit the number of selections of things I can choose. So like if I do this particular sketch, again, I'm looking to give these out to my customers that make purchases off my retail website. They are not going to know what one is getting from what the next one is getting. So in looking at this sketch, for me, what I'm seeing is a solid color panel as the cardstock base, a DSP for this one that is 4 by 3 and by 3.5, and then another DSP here. And what I'm thinking is, this is the most front, the top piece. So I'm looking at, that's going to be my decorative piece. So what I'm thinking is taking for one of these, this piece here, and making it into that piece. And again, this is a 6 by 6. They want 4 by 3.5. If I do this in a 4 by 3 inch, if I do it just the half, I can get 2. So I would be able to get 6 card fronts out of this pack by just making that a little bit smaller in that piece. And I really don't think you're going to notice a difference of it being a 1/2 inch shorter this way than there. So I'm thinking this is going to be my background panel. I am going to be limited because I don't have the full, I only brought 3 of these with me, so I'm looking to see, again, if this is my background piece, putting that on there as one, and then I'm thinking I'm going to pull in this piece to be my strip, is what I'm thinking right now. I may not seem like a lot, but it's also going to have to limit me because this is all the stamps and dies. This pack and this is all I have with me. So I know it probably seems like a lot, but I needed everything in those to be giving me the shapes as well as anything decorative. So I'm thinking possibly right now of these, and then doing my sentiment here with this Merry Little Christmas in here, and then doing a piece here that is like the deer, or I'm thinking of doing the tree here and a sentiment here, and not doing that fishtail banner. So what I need to decide on first is, like I said, I don't have these full panels, and I'm already looking. I'm going to pull the green in as a background for here. And that's a whole different green. That's an actual, that's the olive green from Hobby Lobby. So that's not even the darker green. If I pull the green in for this, then I would need red for the full back here. And then I would not have a panel for that. But if I do this as a panel on a green, then I'm pulling in, still not going to have enough of that red. Like I said, this red is very difficult for me because I don't have her cardstock. I do have a darker red, but I don't think it's going to go. If I use it just as a little bit, I don't think it's bad. I think I can get away with that one. Yeah, there we go. I'll get away with it on that one. All right, so I think I'm going to do that. So what I have with me is the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, and I'll be honest, I've been using the Tonic Studio Guillotine for several months. It's gonna be like having to try and remember things. I'm hoping it's like riding a bike. I can get right back on it. So I'm just not quite sure I'm sold on this yet. Maybe this, maybe the green? Yeah, I feel like the green makes it pop more. That's too much circle stuff. Or maybe this one. See, this is where, you know, like you just get, oh God, no. So too many choices at the beginning here. I think I like the green better here, actually. But I wonder if I did the browner. It's just so busy. I'll have to find something else to do with this. It's just too busy for me. Not that the screen is any less busy, mind you, but I think the consistency of the greens in the paper help pull it together. So first thing I'm going to do is get these greens cut down, and let's see what we have left from that. So to give me, I'm going to cut the 4-inch and then that, because then that'll give me a 2-inch strip here to deal with. So that's the first thing is to think about, is how you can, and see, this one has a pine cone. I may do the pine cone, let's see. So let me put back what I am not using and get them out of my way. I'm one of them ones that if there's too much going on, I'm a little too, I can't think straight. So, too much white space for me there. I know, I'm a little crazy with that. I know that's what I'm thinking of. So the first thing is cutting this green into 4 by 3-inch strips. I hope this will cut multiple pieces of this. I would not recommend this if you do not feel comfortable in the sharpness of your blade. I just put a brand new blade in, so I feel pretty comfortable. And again, I go in the center and I just kind of start wiggling it in either direction. I don't want to move the paper too much. So that gives me a good 2-inch by 6-inch strip to put aside for another card. So now I have my 4-inch, and like I said, it's 4 by 3. And I'm using my fingernail to kind of get all those pages lined up on the 3 mark. I'm using the one down here as well to make sure I get them all lined up. In the center, I just start wiggling a little bit, and there gives me my 6 sheets that I can do. So now, these are going to be 1 1/4 by 4 7/8. I want to cut the long side first. Oh, there's that other brown that I don't want. I want to do the 4 1/4 so I can at least get a strip that will be 1 1/4 in length. So again, I'm getting myself with a 4 1/4 here, cutting the long side first so that I can get myself that strip. Realistically, I probably don't need all of this paper that I just cut because I need 6 sheets at 1 3/4. So I'm going to do them individually. I probably only need 2 sheets, but oh well. 1, 2, and 3. And you probably, I may edit this out. You probably don't need to sit here and watch me cutting a bunch of cardstock. So I'm cutting all of this, and then I will cut the cardstock so that it's 1/8 of an inch bigger, just so I have a little bit sneak peek of another one. And I just did what I told you to not do. Not paying attention. So here you make mistakes. So now I need to cut this to 4 because I cut it the wrong way. So now I'm going to have these little pieces for another card that I will do later because I didn't cut it on the short side. So yeah, I didn't cut it. I cut it this way instead of trying to cut it this way. So see, I did need that piece. Give me my 6th. So I will put all of my strips of paper in a pile. And that is my deal with later pile. So now I have this and this. I learned from Gail Murray at Stampin' Up, and she is the queen of layering. So I have adopted her methods of, it's almost like over layering paper. So I'm going to just say right now that is my card base. These greens don't really match, but I'm trying to go with how many do I want layers on all of it? And yes, I think I need layers on all of it. It's a brand new paper trimmer, and here we go. They all need a shave. Shave and a haircut. Do you remember that when we were kids? Am I showing my age? About the shave and haircut? I forget it. What's the next line? Yeah, so that's not a, like I said, I just changed the blade. This is another reason why, like, you don't get this with the guillotine trimmer from Tim Holtz. You don't get this, you just get very clean cuts. Now these ones went cleanly. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I may do a red background to give this some more interest. So if I do that, now they've got this panel going flush with this. I may have to do my, oh God, what's on there? I may do my layer out to that, and then this is going to come in here. Yes, most definitely needs a layer. That red just looks so washed out. Let me go with a darker red. I'm really in this like hunter green phase right now. Yeah, most definitely much better. I think that's going to balance that out. And then I'm going to do a circle, and I may do a circle with a pine cone in it and a sentiment here. So let me get these layers cut, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I've done some cutting now, and this is what I've come up with. I kind of went with a wider because this card base is cut at 4 1/4, and according to this, that panel went all the way to the edge. So I thought, yeah, right, fine. So I made this the green layer 4 1/4 by 3 1/4, because like I said, I cut this to 3 inches instead of the 3 1/2. So I added the 1/2 inch to this as well. This was cut at 1 3/4 by 4 3/4, so I did this as 5 and 2. And I'm happy with those layers. I'm not quite sure about the red background yet. I'm kind of debating if I want to do an ivory color. I do usually do my panels full and then put this right on the card base. If I decide to go with the cream, I'm going to eliminate this and go right to my card base. I haven't decided yet. What I have decided is I want to do this honeybee pine cone. And these are the pieces out of the set that I'm needing right now. And I have the brown cardstock that I told you before was from Hobby Lobby. But to add some interest to it, I think I'm going to sponge on some of this Tim Holtz Distress Oxide and Vintage Photo. I was debating about using my blending brush or the little dauber, because daubers, I just don't feel they get a good even coverage, but I want to add some interest and I really don't want it to be, oh, this is like so close in brown. Okay. Let me see what else. You're not even seeing the Vintage Photo. Maybe I will try that dark sage on there. I just want a different color to give it some texture. I just feel like this is really not adding a whole lot of texture. So I do have, okay, I'll try a clean one because I do want to see what color this is going to be. It looks very, okay, so this is what I'm looking for. It is definitely, that is not, I don't know what color they're considering dark sage to be, because that is dark sage. It is a very browny brown. Again, I'm not looking for any precision. I'm not looking for anything to be, oh, you know what it's doing? It's trying to go over that oxide and it's not going over very well. So I'm going to just flip that to the back and just rub this in arbitrarily. Ooh, I don't even care that there's a crease in my paper now, because when I get through with these pine cones, they are going to have different dimension to them too. I like to add dimension as well as trying to do some texture. So I don't really care. Like I said, there's some where you can see some very heavy spots, but a lot of this is going to get covered up too because of how these panels fit together. So I'm going to go die cut out one and see how this looks, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have now cut out my pine cones, and I decided I wanted to do some evergreen boughs to go, or sprigs to go with it. So I took a piece of the leftover paper, and this is actually Hunter Green from Hobby Lobby. And I have to tell you, it wasn't as hunter in darkness as I wanted it to be, so I'm kind of using it for this. But I put some of that Distressed Oxide Vintage Photo over it because, I'll be honest, it's my first time trying it, and I'm kind of thinking for this project it's going to look phenomenal because, again, I wanted some texture to this. And pine really has, like, the needles really do have, like, that, like, coating on it that's, like, from, like, the sap. So I just put the brown on it. I just flicked, well, I put water on my hands and I flicked it off a couple times. And then I flicked the paper because I didn't want the paper to be soggy. I just want to get, I don't know if you can tell, I have the oxidation in there. So I think when this cuts out, it's going to look really cool. So let me go cut the pine and I'll be right back again. Hi, it's Kristen. I'm back again. Kind of lost my motivation for a few minutes. Okay, I lied. For about an hour. So I cut out the pine cones, and I also did some of that on the pine boughs, and I don't know, I think that's a piece of my hair in there. My God, I'm shedding. You can see there's a little bit of different color texture in there. So I'm going to put this together. And one of the things I do is I want to kind of round this off. I'm going to give this some texture. I'm going to put this together first. This is like a 6-part pine cone from Honeybee Stamps. And I'm going to use my Barely Art glue to do this. And I'm only going to glue it up here because, again, I want to try and get some dimension out of this paper. And I'm kind of just lining up these. I don't know if you can see there's like some grooves. There's like 3 grooves at the top, and this little thing here kind of directs me. So this gives me an ability to kind of fool with the papers, break up a little bit of the fibers, get some, like I said, I want to work on some dimension going in there. So I'm going to kind of work with it in every different direction because I want it to, I don't want them completely flat. So I'm going to do this as I pile them on top of each other, and you just work from the biggest to the smallest. This is kind of what you're doing here. And again, I'm just going to glue them at the top because I want those bottom pieces, I want them to be able to move away from each other. And I'm really going to kind of fan them out once I get this all together. So let's get this together. I will be honest, I had to look this back up because this is my first time putting this together. My inks have really kind of put all the ink on there for that texture, and it looked really good at first, and they've kind of, there's still some there, but they're not as vibrant as they were. But you can still somewhat see when you show the back of it that there's more there. So this just kind of doesn't lay on there anymore. There's no, these pieces, that's why I had to look it up. They fit on top, but they don't really fit that groove like the rest. I'm guessing as they're trying to give it a top. This I really had to kind of lay down to see which direction it went. So having put them on there, really gave it a top, but it doesn't really finish it off. I really needed something. They have a bow in here, which I thought was really nice. This die has a scalloped edge bow in here that you could put on the top. And I'll probably make another card with that at some point, but it's got a stitched and a scalloped edge to it, so I really liked that. Like I said, I'm going to kind of just work on getting these a little bit rounded to give it a little bit more realistic dimension. Because for me to get height out of this card, this is going to be where I'm getting the height. I just want them kind of pulling away from each other like a normal pine cone would. I guess it's not going to do it for me, so I guess that's what it is. So I did cut out, I've got the red background I decided to leave. This is the panel that is going around the center. So this was the card sketch here, and I'm using it as guidance, but it's not going to be my final card. This will go on a regular A2 card base. I have, like I said, I haven't brought up my card bases yet, so I will attach that later. And to make this so that it sits flat and doesn't dip down, I am going to put a piece of cardstock right here. I'm just measuring where I want that to be, and I will do one down here. Some people put it to the back of the paper, but then I don't know if the paper's going to fall where I want it to, so I kind of put it there. And this is not going to be, this needs to be trimmed down. Ugh, getting washi tape all over. So that will stay there, and I'm going to put that on top. So now let me glue this piece down. Yeah. Sometimes I don't think I get enough glue. Sometimes I have too much glue. So I'm throwing those aside. Yeah, well, it looks like it's about straight. So now I did cut out a stitched circle, and that is going to go here. And we're putting that in the center of it. Some people would probably put a little bit on the sides of these, but honestly, I'm not that good at cutting little slivers, so that's just staying there. We're going to put this in the center. And I'm going to just mainly try to get it around the edges, because again, it's got a little bit of a rounded, worked that paper out, so it's really got a rounded, I don't know if you can see that, but it does come out a little bit now. I wanted it to be not as flat as needed. We're going to just douse this top piece up. Really, let's get that down. So why that is, I can't get in there. Why that is, I'm holding that down. I did stamp this sentiment called Warm Holiday Greetings from the Simon Says Stamps Tiny Christmas Words, as I think what the name of it is. Tiny Words Christmas. That is this, I love this because it's got all kinds of sentiments. So I stamped that in the red velvet color, and I'm going to just hide that behind. But first, there's 3 of these, and I'm going to, again, just kind of do along the spine here. And they came out of the die cutting machine already kind of rounded, which I was happy with. The dies in this weren't too bad. They weren't the easiest, but they weren't the worst. This is, like I said, part of the Pine Bell set from Honeybee Stamps, and because of the they're so intricate, say that, I wasn't sure what to expect trying to get stuff out of these. They weren't too bad. Like I said, I've had worse, I'll be honest. You just kind of press it, to get them out of the paper, I just go down the spine and press up, and they kind of came out. So I was happy with that. And then, like I said, I'm just going to go down either side with this. I want to keep kind of I don't want it flat, so I'm kind of giving it like a mountain effect a little bit. And then this last piece I'm putting in the center, and again, I'm just doing it more at the top than anything. And I'm putting that one a little bit so that the stem goes a little bit higher, trying to hide the ones behind it. And then I'm going to just stash this in, because like I told you, I mainly glued up the top there. It's going to leave me a little bit of an open space to play with this. I'm trying to keep it so I'm not, because again, this card front here is an A2. Let me put this paper behind it so you can see. This is an A2 card front already. So I'm just going to glue that right onto the card base. And I'm going to go with ivory. This is an ivory color because of the browns in the paper. Like I said, it's kind of like a dirty sand color. I don't know how else to explain it. I really want to go with the creams instead of the whites that were in here. So this is all the circle, and this is ivory. And there we go. That will be card number 1 from this series, and I'm going to get a total of 6 cards from this, and I will be putting them all together off camera so you don't have to see all that. Then I went to a second card while I was in my hiatus here, and this second card I'm doing, I picked out the papers that were the snowflake, and I'm using this paper that was very dark. It wasn't, this is not the cherry cobbler. This was in a Recollections pack of 5 different colors. Recollections is Michael's. And they have a red pack that has 5 different colors. And this was probably like the darkest one in there. So I'm using this, was another card sketch. And it is from My Favorite Things. And It is sketch 494. So I'm using this sketch for inspiration. And what I went with is using this pattern more in the back because I liked this one and I wanted it to be predominantly featured. So I'm doing that on that background, so that gives me a layer behind it. This is going to be the A2 size, so this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I did this at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 is going to be that one. So I have one of those somewhere. Maybe I didn't hear it down yet. Then I took this green paper. Just to me, like I said, this wasn't very Christmassy, and it seemed very busy. So I didn't want to put a big piece of that on any of the cards. So I'm going to do that in the back. And then this is the 2 3/4 by the 4 1/8 inch, because it goes all the way over. And I just cut the Gina K Christmas pine paper to be. Now, if I really wanted to save paper, I could have cut here and then just pieced in, but honestly, I'm trying to get these cards done. So, you can find ways to, save on the paper. I really could have just done this in a strip, but I am still new to this, and I'm just trying to get these cards done without it being too cumbersome. So then I used a stitched oval die. I believe this was in one of the foundation sets from Queen & Company, so that is going to go there. And then I used this penny black layered poinsettia die is what I'm intending to put together for. Just going to dab that and just offset these. And let's do another dab. And we will offset this again. I did get down here and did not bring a stitch of gold foil. Don't know what I was thinking. So my friend is going to bring some when she comes here Thursday. It's Tuesday night. So I will do some, this is what this tiny little thing die cuts out for the center. But I'm going to do that in gold, and that will be the berries at some point. I'm just going to round these to give this again some texture. I was debating about doing some tone-on-tone stamping again with the dauber, and I may when it gets further along. I haven't decided, but I thought that would be a good centerpiece on there. And then there is this Joy to the World that I cut out. That's going to be this piece, and I don't know what I did with. I had a thin piece of this paper cut. This is what I do to myself. Here it is over here. I'm going to glue that on there. And then cut this down so that I have a little bit of reveal. And I'm not really, I kind of use the stamp as my guide for how long to make this. The Simon Says stamps, I mean, there is like a ton of these sayings in there. I don't even know how many. I would have to sit and count. I just picked one that I thought fit to the pattern of the paper, and so I went with Joy to the World. And let me say, I'll glue everything down. I do have my ATG gun, so let's use that for this bigger piece. I told you this, I hate working with everything being a mess. I hate clean. The easiest part for me is I center corner to corner. If you can center corner to corner, usually it falls in pretty easily. Then I have this piece. Could have used my ATG, but I think kind of getting spoiled with this glitter. I was using our glitter glue, but I'm in the, oh jeez, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in New Jersey, so trying to get our glitter glue here would not be feasible with the temperatures that we've had. So yeah, now I've been using this Bailey art glue, and I find it to be pretty comparable. I really don't, there's a few significance, and I'll probably do a video on that, but for the most part, I'm very happy with the Bailey art glue. Like I said, I got addicted to the art glitter glue, but I was debating about putting some pieces behind this, but again, it's so thin. I'd probably make it more of a mess. Just going to put that to the top, and like you can see, you know, that little bit of rounding to the edges just gives it a little bit of dimension. And you know what? It won't affect the postage, and it'll fit right in the envelope, but the recipient will know. And then just putting that right underneath of it. If I had my rhinestones, and I'm debating if I brought, I don't think I did, I would actually probably put some gold rhinestones in the middle of that to really finish it off. Like I said, unfortunately with where I'm at, I don't have them. Of course I put that down and it's just not, I don't think it's like quite straight. Yeah, of course not. No. Because, you know, I like to do things. But I'm not going to edit this out because, you know, this is how things go. So now I got to hide that paper with that and still be straight. And I'll do it. There you go. Now this paper is white on here because there's white. I don't know why they did that. There's white in the polka dots. So most of this paper lends itself towards cream paper, but for some reason this particular paper has white. So I had to pull the white in for that. So this will go on an A2 card front, and this one is done. So now we have 2 cards that are done out of that pack. And I'm going to get 3 out of that because the striped paper, I could only get 1 from each pattern. So that is that paper. And then I'm in the midst of working on another one. Like I said, I'm trying to get my work area cleaned off because I'm just not, if things get too cluttered, I can't think straight. That's just the way I'm built. So I have to put stuff away as I go. So then I came up with using this card sketch, and I'll be honest, I'm really kind of, again, being limited by the supplies I have, and I'm not feeling the excitement right this moment. Got cookies here. See what happens when I go away. All right, so we did these 2. Building up my stash of what I haven't used, or what I have used. So then I was using, it was this sketch from Queen & Company. So I'm using that same dark paper, and I cut out that busy print, this one here, from the Queen & Company Foundations dies, and this is, oh, let me see, I'll have to link it for you below. I think it may be foundation set 4. Yeah, foundations, Queen & Company's foundation set 4. So I cut out with this big scallop die. I made sure I put it off to the side so I could get this strip here. And I'll get a little one here that I saved. So I just used some washi tape to get that down. And that gave me my center. So then this part I'm very happy with. You don't notice the stitching on it much, but I didn't feel like I needed to see the stitching on it because the pattern's so busy. So again, I'm using my diagonal corners to get this down and try and lay that centered. So far I'm happy with that. So then they have this piece, which features to me like it's supposed to feature something. And then I'm happy with this, which the sentiment's going to go on here. And I've got a couple sentiments picked out, but it depends on what's going in the center. And I didn't bring any heat embossing. I felt like this needed a different third color. So this is a Sunny Studios ornament set, and I'll be honest, I opened it up for the first time today, and I'm missing 2 of the stamps on there. I'm really kind of disappointed. I bought them from Simon Says Stamps. Or was it scrapbook.com? I gotta look up my stuff. But I'm hoping they're going to honor that a replacement, because like I said, it's got one of the 2 parts on a different shape missing. But I don't have embossing with me, and I'm very limited on the colors I brought, and I'm really not liking this color combination. But what I'm thinking here is a longer sentiment, like like what would fit here. And I wanted to have a piece of silver thread or something holding, and I was going to prop this up on a dimensional and have that come through there. And then I do have a greenery stamp that I want to use. That is here. The greenery winter sketches. I do intend to use like this one here. I just want a hint. This is C2. Let's see what else. C1 has it's supposed to have a branch with a pine cone, and I really don't know that I want a pine cone. So I'm thinking that I will just use some of this pine bell. And I love Gina K Designs Fresh Asparagus. This is one of my favorite color inks for anything to do with greenery and Christmas. So my intent is I'm going to just put in a few, put my elbow right in this ink pad. Just put in a few, I'm gonna get this new stamp, so I gotta get this kind of going good. Yeah, oh, I like that. Like, it's that one there is like what I'm kind of going for. So let me see. Yeah, I want to get a second generation, so let me do that. And I'm looking to just do a hint of evergreens, and I'm thinking prop this up on the dimensional. Like I said, I'm thinking I will heat emboss in gold where the green is, and then do the red and some thread on this. So this one I'll come back to and show you when I get this completed. So that is the third card out of this set. So that will eliminate these, because I'm going to make 3. So that will make that done. So what I have left now is, I gotta clean that off, and we can get rid of this pine bell. Let me put my whatchamacallit back in here so this doesn't dry out, because this stuff dries very quickly. So that is card 3. Like I said, I'm very limited with my supplies here, so that will get done. But I have to see my friends coming, like I said, with her stuff. So that is card 3. So here's what I'm left with. I have 1 sheet of that. Still have the 3 sheets of that. I have the perfect stamp for that, and I don't have it here. I'm so disappointed in myself. I have these 3 sheets, which I love. And this. So I'm thinking this one screams, the color, I guess, is screaming gingerbread to me. So my point, like I said, is I want this to be production and simple. Like, let me blow it out as fast as I can. And this was a great, quick and easy presentation. So what I'm thinking I may do here is do this in the back and use up these 3 sheets. I actually do have some scraps of this and do this as the strip, because again I have the white and the white, so that'll tie in for me to do white. And I'm thinking I may do a gingerbread man on this because like I said, that color to me is screaming something nature, brown. You know, I try to look at the paper and let the paper say to me, like, you know, what does it lend itself to? So I'm thinking that I do still have some scraps, and I'm thinking like this just doesn't do it for me. It's too this like Greek key one probably wouldn't be bad, but it just doesn't. I'm going through what I have of scraps. Oh, you know what? These are more of what I had cut out. Oh geez, that's what it is. This is more cut out of my section 1. Like I said, I'm going to put these together off screen. I'm not going to have you having to sit through all that with me. And then at the end, I'll show you all the cards I made. These were ones, like I said, I pre-cut. So this is not scraps. This is cards. My scraps are in this pile over here. So let's see what I have left. I have the red, which is too similar. I do have some of the green already cut in that. The red. I'm trying to, honestly, I just don't, I want to get rid of this green paper. And I want to get rid of this brown. This green may be good with that, but to me, this is just too, this is like a botanical. This is very, like, retro. Like, it seems like the styles are just not here to be mixed and matched, but I'm going to do what I can. So I'm thinking I could just do this brown, but this brown is very hard to match. So that's also why I'm looking to pull in a color from one of these other ones so that I can mat this layer up. I'll pull it in. I think I'm going to go with this and pull in a, I had this out. This is the Winter Sketches from the Greetery, and I love how they give these multi-step ones to layer up the stamp and not have to color, because I do not color very well. So I'm thinking this may be a good one for doing a feature on the front of maybe one of these ones that's bringing in like the pine cone and all. Like this one here looks very, very pretty. So the way these work is A1 would be the brown, A2 you're bringing in the greens, A3 you're bringing in one part of the berries, and A4 is the deeper part of the berry. And that's the A's. And then the B's are just the small one, the C is the small one. Oh, and then optional 5, you can use the outline layer alone to create pretty backgrounds. What is A5? A1, A2, A3, A4. I don't see an A5. Use that outline layer alone to create pretty backgrounds. I don't know. Because there's C1. I guess when I start using them, I would figure it out. So I'm thinking, bringing in a pretty botanical to go with that, because I have that. And I also brought in, this is a real fun one. This crimped rectangles is beautiful. And so I'm debating about that one. Or I have, like this one, the Queen of Cunning Foundations with just a wreath on it would make that very super easy to go with. I also have the Greeteries Winter Beauties. And the Winter Beauties is similar in that you do multiple stampings to get these colors. But these ones have, ooh, I think I like that one. That bunch of holly leaves. So I think I'm going to go with that one. And let's get that together. Don't know if I'm really going to need much in the way of a sketch for this, because what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut this down to be so now I have one for this. I'm going to use the trimmer. And like I said, I'm just going to let the paper dictate. And this big, like I said, just looks very botanical. It looks very traditional. So I'm just cutting this from 4 and 5 1/4. So again, by doing the 4 first, I'm getting and this doesn't really, the direction seems to go up and down, but if you went that way, I don't think it would really matter, but I'm doing it up and down. I'm doing the longest one first, so I can get that longer strip. I'll get a 2-inch strip left, so I'm going with 4. It gives me a 2-inch by 6-inch strip, and then I'll do the 5 1/4. So I will get a smaller strip of scrap. So I'm going to do them, and then what I'm going to do to give it a little bit more dimension is I'm going to see, if I do the large one, you're not going to see any of the background. So I'm going to cut out a piece of white paper with this, and then I'm going to stamp the greenery piece on there and make it as simple as can be. So let me go cut some white cardstock out, and I will be right back. I'm back. I wanted to show you, I had die cut. This is the Greeteries Crimped Rectangles. And I did it at first with a just regular cardstock, white cardstock from Hobby Lobby. And I realized as soon as I put it through that it wasn't as rich looking as I wanted. I buy this extra heavyweight cardstock to use as my bases. And if you can take a look at just how much crisper, the edges don't get as warped when you use the heavier paper. It's just the depth of the stitching that gets embossed into there. It brings a nicer look. I buy this when it's half off. Again, depending on whether I'm doing stuff for my personal use or giving it away, I will use some of the nicer cardstocks for my personal use. I do tend to buy the cheaper stuff for the giveaway, but I still try to upgrade it and make it look nicer as I can. So personally, this just doesn't do it for me. So I'm going to use this one that's higher grade paper. And I'm realizing as I'm looking at this, why I'm just not feeling this paper. And it's that this paper is so bright. It really needs to be, paper really needs to be distressed. I don't know how much of what I brought with me. I don't even know, honestly. I think that's one of the things I'm feeling with this paper. I don't know if this paper's really one that's going to take these inks well, to kind of grunge them up. This is a early espresso color from Stampin' Up. That's my nicer paper. I don't want to use that. Give me one of my cheapy papers. I'm going to try and, yeah, see this paper? It will take, but I don't have that much ink in this stobber to kind of give me the feel of what I'm looking for. I really just want to tone this paper down. It's just, the white is too bright for what I want to do. I'm going to try and pull out every ounce of this early espresso that I can. I'm just going to try and use this Distress Oxide that I have with me, this vintage photo, but I'm afraid it may be too close in color that it's not going to give me the grunginess that I want in this. I'm tearing this apart, but I don't care. These things are cheap. And I'm only looking because this is going in the center, so I don't really need, I'm liking this better. But it's making it more green color than brown, but that's fine because the brown in the paper, there's a lot of brown in that paper. And then I may use the vintage photo to kind of distress this up after it's done. I kind of wish I knew I'd gone with the ivory. I do have a piece of the ivory sitting here, so to give you a little bit better, I think the ivory, and I may change it off, I think the ivory is going to just bring this tone down even more. So I think I'm going to change this out now that I've grunged that up. And I'm going to go die cut this with this Greenery's Crimped Rectangle die and get that cut out. And this is again the extra heavyweight cardstock I have because like I said, I just like the look. It just looks nicer. So let me go cut that out, and then we're going to get into the Greenery's Winter Beauties stamp. All right, so now we're going to move into following this. They're calling it Budding Beauties. I guess it's the series, but this is the winter. I want to try and do the holly on here. So the holly has the one which seems to be the background color, which is the lighter green, which I'm going to do in Grass Green from Gina K. Then you have the darker, I guess, shadow piece is Holly 2. So I'm going to do that in my Fresh Espresso. Get that stamp pad over here. And then the third is the berries, which I will do in the red velvet, and then you have a shadow underneath the berries, which I will do in the cherry red. So that is the 4 stamps of the Winter Beauties, and I was looking to do this, and I'm thinking the best thing for me is going to be I have the Stamparatus. I know there is a Misty that is very similar. So first things I need to do is pull off this Holly White. That's Holly White, Holly 1. Still thinking about my white cardstock over here. So I'm going to place that how I want it. And we're trying to get it centered. You could probably have it facing up or facing down. I'm going to face it up. I'm thinking I need to, oh God, I hate these new stamps. I'm not sure where I left off. I'm doing the stamping for this Winter Beauties. I'm doing the first layer of the holly, which is the light green. So I'm doing this with the Gina K Grass Green. I'm just going to keep For one, the longer I leave it on there, I find that the paper can pull the ink off the stamp. And I find I really don't have to do too much of a second one. I want to just try and get the center here, even though I have a feeling it's not really going to stay. I have a feeling that's going to be where that darker green goes. So, now that I have that, let me get my little baby wipe here. I can get that off my board. So that's the number 1. So then the holly number 2 is the darker one, and I see holly 3 and 4. I must be blind. I mean, I know I'm blind, but okay, here's holly 2 over here. And let's see. All right, so this is supposed to line up with, there's a greenery in the back. Okay. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. So I'm just trying to get them in between each one of these leaves. And then it's going to give me a shadow on the stem and then some stems in the back. So that looks to be pretty good. Having a feeling this is going to stick, and it is. I have had the worst time tonight because even if I use the magnets, it's still pulling up. I'm telling you, these stamps are something else. They are so sticky. So let's try this again. I'm using one of the stems. There's a little bit of stem on this that's going to give you shadows. I'm also lining up the leaves. So there we go. I'm just not going to press on it as much so it doesn't adhere to this paper. So then I'm going to go with fresh asparagus to give me my shadows and my darker colors. And I will not be surprised if I can do this all in one, because I'm telling you these inks are fabulous. Again, I'm just letting the paper pull that ink off the stamp. Wow. I know it still doesn't look like much, but when I tell you, by the time those berries get in there, it's going to really look crisp. So now, the next thing for the third thing is the brighter, vibrant red. So let's put that back, and then I'm getting the holly 3. And they kind of go up and down. You can kind of see right in there where they're going to fall, because there's a big open gap in the stamp. So I am lining them up to go in there. Oh, I still have a little bit of green on my board that I don't want. God help me, I'll probably be wearing it if I don't get rid of it. So then we're going with the red velvet. I'm still learning these colors, please forgive me. But this, I can tell, is really gonna look, this is gonna look fabulous. These colors just blend so well together. So again, let the ink just kind of pull itself off of the stamp onto there. So that is the third one for the holly berries. And then the fourth one is going to add the shadowing to the holly berries. So I'm kind of excited to see what this is going to look like. Ooh. Now the shadows fall in the bottom of it. So I've got to look how those went on there. And that seems to be, excuse my head if it's showing up in here, my messy ponytail. All right, that seems to be. And then I'm gonna do the shadows with cherry red. So this seems to be matched up. We shall see, because this is my very first experience with their inks and their multi-layering stamps. It's not perfect, but you know what? I think it really looks nice. And by the time this thing gets grunged up a little bit, it's not, you're not even going to see if it's not perfect. If you do the washi tape, really make sure you're not using an ultra sticky one. This is a Stampin' Up! Washi tape I've had, and I'm kind of just looking to get rid of it. So that would get rid of it, all right? Now I'm forgetting is I do have that crimping on there. I don't know how grungy I can get this with that being on there. And I'm also looking as what do I want to do for a sentiment. So what I'm thinking is I may do a small sentiment here and then find something to be a bow on this. And I don't think they have a bow in here, which seems a little strange, truthfully. Well, I didn't put my stamp back on there. And what I'm also thinking to tie this in is I may do a strip of green. I have some green over here that's left over. I'm thinking, because I'm, just making this up as I go, doing a green along there. And I think that's really going to tie in the green and that sentiment. So I want to just trim off, because like I said, my trimmer is just, am I the only one that gets these Stampin' Up! Blades that just, I've tried cleaning out the guide thing here, and it just doesn't seem like these blades want to really cut anything. So I start in the center and rock it a little bit just to get me it's still. Move along, just keep moving. So I'm going to do this with the, I think I'm going to do this the full card base, because this was 5 1/4. But I think I'm going to do that all the way over. I'm going to do this the full, the full 4 1/4. And I'm going to probably do it a little bit longer, and I can always trim it back. So I'm going to just hang that off each side a little bit. And I don't know if grunging that up's going to work, but you know what? What I do have is that one in white that sorry, I keep putting my arms in here. I have that in white that I cut out and I changed my mind on. So let's take the white and I can test on that. Let's take a blending brush. I have a Gina K warm cocoa, and I actually think this paper may be warm cocoa. So let's see if, no, that's not a warm cocoa. That's definitely not warm cocoa. So that is not going to work. Definitely too dark. But I was also not just wondering how the color would look, but I was looking how it would work without embossing. And I think it's going to work with the embossing, but I think I need to do a color that seems to come from that color family. I'm going to try the Distressed Oxide in this vintage photo. Okay, so I'm going to try it on this first. You can't mix the inks. I can't use this blending brush now. So I have pigment ink on there. So I think what I can do is I can pull this in to kind of grunge it up. Maybe I have to go a little lighter, but I can, if I want to, grunge this paper up. So that's good, because like I said, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to tear that edge with the crimping, but I don't think I will. I think it'll be good. So I think if I do this color, I think it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's not black enough in there. I do have some Gina amalgam ink that's in black. I wonder if I can bring in some black to this, if it will blend. But I'm not sure I like that effect either. So this is another color that I may have to work on after I get home, unless my friend happens to bring a similar color. I don't have, oh, well, let's try this one. Maybe this one will work. Alright, so that's that ink. That's what you gotta do sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta sit here and you gotta play with this stuff and see what's gonna work. Because sometimes it's the colors you least expect that turn out to be the ones that really start to work. Of course, that didn't really spread much. The nice thing about paper, you can always flip it over and use the other side. Let's get this worked out. That color is really weird. I mean, this was a brand new pad. And look at the browns I'm pulling in that. This may work. But now look how blue that looks. This is weird. This is that dark sage, and what a weird color it's turning out to be. You know, now when I'm doing it on here, I am starting to see some of the browns come out of it. Again, I think it's just too brown. It needs some kind of gray. Oh, I do have a gray. Maybe I'll try, ooh, where is my Stampin' Up? I have a basic gray with me. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. A lot of work for one card, isn't it? Well, of course, my basic gray has to be about as dry as can be. I can't even pick up any ink color. I'm kind of liking how this is turning out. So, yeah, I'm going to play around with this, and I'll see what colors work. I may do this later, but you can see that the direction as I'm trying to go with, I'm liking what's here. I'm liking this panel. It needs distressing, and unfortunately, I don't know that I'm going to have an answer to what I want to use for distressing. What I do is another hint. Give me, oh, this is a good one. I'm going to cut this, and I just did, ooh, I don't have the pen here. I'm going to just write the name on these, and then I just put it into the finger part of this, like this, so I know this is my vintage photo oxide. So I will have to write on these two, which ones these are. This is the amalgam one, and that's those ones. So I would do those later. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to do a very small sentiment here. I'm thinking one that just says like Merry Christmas or Peace be with you. I have a ton of sentiments with me. Here's one that says Christmas wishes. That one will probably be nice. I'm going to stamp that on the bottom, probably in the red, maybe the dark red. And I probably should use my Misty, but I'm gonna try and attempt it freehand. And then I'll distress it, and I think that is done. The only thing, like I said, is I probably will get a piece of burlap thread. Oh, I do have some of that with me. I have to find it. So when I do this, yeah, I'm on pretty straight. When I do this for the final, I will show you. I'm just going to do a small little bow. Hoping I'll tell my friend to bring her early espresso so I can have a matching distress. And that card, like I said, pretty simple. That will be done. So that is that one. This is trash. And we're using that. I do want to use, I really like the multi-step trees. I have a couple of them with me, and I want to try them in one of these cards. I'm not sure which. So now I am left with, I'll get the 3 cards out of that, and this will be done. So I'll set that. So all I'm left with now is scraps, and then the majority is these 2 patterns and this. So what I'm thinking for these is, can I use these main pieces and some of the scraps that I cut off that were in these longer strips? So I think I may see if I can get 2 cards out of that with 2 strips. I think that would be fine with that. I have these strips here. These are kind of small. I have, this is a large, I don't know. I'm not sure what I think about that one yet. I have these strips here, and I think these are kind of fun, but I don't know what. Again, that's a very different pattern. Like I said, looking at this, I feel like this pattern paper has a very broad mix of traditional, geometric, botanical. You know, if you're looking for a paper pack that could kind of do everything, this would probably be it. But with what I'm trying to do, it's kind of proven to be a little more difficult to me than I expected it would be. I'm just trying to organize my scraps. So, I have a nice chunk left of this paper. So I can probably, I have a sketch in mind I can use for that. And then I have these strips, This is kind of a chunkier one. And those strips. And then these strips. So, kind of keeping that same motif. I think this may not be bad. That, or I'm thinking I'm just going to use this paper with a solid because I really don't want to pull away from this pattern. I really like that. So I'm going to use this paper with this strip to use that up. Get a card sketch for that. This is a maybe, and then we have this one. I'm kind of liking this or this. This may not be big. See, the white in this just really kind of pulls off. I can't do that, obviously, because that's too close. This may not be bad if I could tone this down completely. I have this little strip here. I'm wondering if I do vintage photo on it. So what I'm going to do is get out those daubers and see if I can distress this paper down and calm that pattern down, because to me this pattern is so bright. I just can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. I love how this color is turning. And I have to say this paper is taking ink. I was a little afraid with the finish on the front of it. It was not going to take. So that is my vintage photo, and then my warm cocoa. I don't remember what I had for that. This is the warm cocoa. I have a feeling, yeah, that's like a little bit more rust color, it looks like, when you lay it down. It was not what I expected. I used it on some other stuff. So it's kind of almost leaving a red on red. Yeah. Versus the oxide one. I'm not looking to water activate the ink. So, and like I said, I'm looking to tone that paper down and use it on this. But now I feel like I've toned it down so much that it's too muted for that paper. See what you go through when you start this stuff. It really needs to be a lighter brown. Wish I could wipe it off. I wonder if I could. Use my baby wipe here and see if it'll let me. So when you get a scrap, like, I don't care. I can do whatever I want to this paper. It is letting me wipe off some. Not much. So if I did that, I like that one, but I don't think I'm going to get out of this what I want to get out of this, really. So that's not going to work. So then I'm wondering, can I get maybe a green on green? I think I'm going to see, maybe I can get the fresh asparagus to calm down the white in this polka dot. Like, maybe that's... Yeah, that's part of what I'm not liking either. So maybe if I could do some... I think I'm liking this. I like that better. I like it so it's not so big and bold. The other option is I could do the red on there. I can do, I'm sorry if this is, kind of pulling this out longer, but I do like to show you that, I was going to make the video longer, but I want to show that you can really, you don't have to take it the way it comes. You can change this. The red is coming out a little different than I expected. I'm trying to lay that on heavy, but I'm really not liking the red. The green is toning that paper down, and I really feel like this paper needs to be toned down. So I'm kind of liking the green. The green on green. Just to give it a stripe that would change that off. So I'm thinking I may change that up a little bit. So I think it's getting late. I think I'm losing my creativity. So I think I'm gonna call this tonight, and I will be back bright and early tomorrow to give me a fresh perspective on this paper pack. Because I'm just, that one's not bad. Maybe I'll do something with that. So anyway, I hope you're learning some things. Like I said, this is kind of showing you that you can change some of your papers. Like I said, some, not a lot, but I'm trying. I'm gonna try and make it what I want it to be, not what it has to be. So until tomorrow, I'll see you. Hi, we got a new day here at Life of Crafting. Back with the same paper pack. Have myself some sleep and new perspective over here. I remembered overnight that I have some cards I prepped, and as I prepped my cards, I had put pretty much anything and everything into a Ziploc bag that went with those cards. Excuse me. And what I have in there is some of the distress ink in this antique linen color. So I used some on this paper here, and I'm really happy how this came out, because last night I had tried, I don't even know where my scraps got to. Last night I was trying some different things, and I really was not happy. Had something in my throat. I just wanted to tone this down from the white, and you can see the difference. But I really didn't want to go too grungy, distressed here. So I'm happy with this. So I have did some research, and I came across, and I just wrote a real sketch of a sketch down. This is an Operation Right Home sketch number 219 that I want to do with this, because I'm trying to use up this strip here. These strips, like I said, were 6 inches by not quite 2. So this is going to be a good way to use this up. I'm not going to have a ton of scraps left over. So I'm going to cut these down, and I'll get 3 cards out of this. So I'm probably not going to have a whole lot, maybe a sheet and a half of that is what I'm going to use. So these are the 6 inches. So I just need to get them down to the 5.5, so that'll be simple. And then it's 1 1/4. So again, I'm not gonna have a whole lot of waste. That little piece, and then basically about a 1/2 inch strip. And I don't know, maybe I can use that somewhere in my cards. That, you know, this I doubt it. So I'm gonna prep these 3, and I don't know what I was doing there. Again, I'm gonna get the longer strip because maybe I want to use that for something. And I'm gonna distress. Yeah, so now I have a really tiny piece. I'm gonna just rub that distress ink on there to get that color, that white in this paper toned down. Then, so that'll be this piece. This is basically trash. This is just that. So then, looking at this Operation Right Home, it's just I'm gonna just do this as a solid color. It's only a 3/8 inch wide. I mean, it's probably much smaller than even this. This is, this one's like 5/8, so yeah, it'll be a little bit thinner than those strips I just cut off. And then I need this in a 4 5/8 by 2.5. So let me cut my 4 5/8 so again, so I can get that longer strip. So there is my 4. Oh, jeez. See, this, you don't have these kind of problems with the guillotine. I don't even know where this blade got to. 4 5/8, and then I only need it 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to use just about about 1.5 sheets of this paper. So that will give me a full sheet. So we will have some nice leftovers. So far, this is what we're looking at. I'm really debating. I've got some pre-cut quarter sheets. I'm thinking I'm probably, for the best, going to do. I hate this new blade. I could put another new blade in. I don't know if it's going to do any good. And then, like I said, I'm just going to run I'm running out of this red. Sometimes you think you know exactly what you need, and then it doesn't go. So the 3/8 is right under the. Sometimes when I'm cutting, if I get these little strips like this, I'll save them. Just for these instances, because you know you always get a bunch of scrap left over. So this is what we're dealing with so far. The sketch calls for a circle over here of And they have like 3 little button things. I didn't care for those, but what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I got a stamp set from May made it, and this is called Ornamental Greetings, and it's got a ornament, and then each one of these sentiments is designed to fit inside of this. I'm thinking I'm going to do that. It's not going to be that difficult to fussy cut this out. She makes her stuff very simple for that reason. I don't see that she offers dies for any of her stuff, but if you have a scan and cut, which sooner or later I may be able to figure out how to use my Cricut to do that, but I'm thinking that would be a really nice piece instead of a circle with a sentiment on it, to do one of these and pick one of these beautiful. It's gonna be tough for me to pick which one of these sentiments, but maybe this one says we wish you a Merry Christmas. I bet you that would be really nice. And I'm thinking I may do the background on a colored paper and then pop this up on a cream. So I am going to start putting this glue down and figure out what I'm going to do with this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I tried, I've got everything on here, and I tried the fussy cut ornament, and you know what, I liked this. I still like the stamp, but I don't like it on this card. So I tried this, which is a recollection stamp, and the oval and the scallop oval die is from the Queen and Company's Foundation 5 set. And I really like this presentation. The only thing, and I'm surprised with it, is this recollection stamp. I got this past Christmas season on a clearance, and the font for that, which is surprising for them, is stamping out kind of a little fuzzy. It just had the number 529289 on the back of the package. Really nice sentiments. I always love their sentiments, but I did it a couple of times, and you know, like here's another one that I did. I got it too close to the top to die cut it, but you're still seeing it's. Like I said, I'm gonna roll this one again because, you know, I'm trying to use my time at the most effectiveness. So I think I'm gonna still use this, but I'm just a little surprised with that. So I think I'm going to pop up this sentiment on the oval backer, and let's see how that looks. Now, if I was home and I had more of my stuff, because I can never let things just sit, I probably would have done maybe, I have a holly punch. I probably would add just a little holly berry or something in the top, but you know, we are where we are, and I don't have one here, so, and you know, I'm trying to save time. Because I did give myself an agenda of what I wanted to get done, and of course, I took an early night last night, which, you know, I do have to consider. This is my vacation, if you can believe it. Yes, this is my idea of a vacation. Trying to get this lined up, because like I said, I'd rather do it to the paper. Make sure I've got this on here, but that strip is so small that I can get it lined up between here with no issue. Some of the ones where you're just putting little dabs of stuff, I sometimes wonder if I can actually line it up correctly. But this isn't too bad. But I do want to hang it over and get some red on the green to kind of keep that. And then I think this is going to be it. After I get home, I may, believe it or not, I don't know what I was thinking when I packed. I didn't pack any bling, like rhinestones or pearls or anything like that. So I may do some of that once I get home. But that to me, you know, it's a pretty card. Very classic looking. So that is going to be what I'll do for the rest of these 3. And that will be that design. So we've got that card. So we'll get 3 of them out of that. So now I'm left with, like I said, I have 1 sheet of this left. I still have my, this is my scrap pile. I'm trying to keep them somewhat organized. I have an idea of what I want to do with these strips because I have something as new, new to me, die that I think I'm really going to want to try out. So we've got our longer strips. These were the, when I cut the scalloped out, I thought that may be a nice edger on one of them. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them or not, but I figured, you know what? It's already got a shape of some sort cut to it. I don't want to waste them if I can use them in some way. So then I have my very thin and, you know, I don't know if I'm going to use them at all, scraps. So I've got, yeah, you're not seeing this. I've got on my table over here my piles of scraps. I've got my bigger, chunkier scraps, my bigger strip of scraps, these little funky ones I showed you that have that, and then that's my pile of all other scraps that came out of this pile. So coming back to what we have left, so I have, like I said, 1 sheet here. I still have these 3 sheets. 1 sheet of this left. Those are scraps, but I'm thinking I may use them for that. And that's all I have left. So I have 5 full sheets and then just some scraps. So this one, like I said, I was thinking to use maybe some of these with it. Some of these may not be bad either. That may be a fun one. Yeah, let's look at what we can do as a card sketch. And I'm thinking, because they have to go up and down. I mean, I guess they could go that way, but I don't think I want them that way. I think I'm going to go this way. These are single sheets. I'm going to go find a sketch that will go up and down this way with this on the side. So I'm thinking basically a bigger panel here. I think I had one in my sketches. I only printed up a few, unfortunately. But I do think I had one there. No. So I'm going to go look for a sketch and I will be back again. Okay. Here I am. I love Christy Marcotte. She's just an aspiration to... Is that even a word? I don't even know. Am I using that word properly? Inspiration? Inspiration. I aspire to be her. Aspire. But she inspires me. We're gonna get an English lesson in this. So anyway, I found this on here. She made this Valentine card, and this is exactly what I'm thinking. And maybe I can use my strips right here. Maybe, we'll see. So what I'm thinking, I don't have a circle punch. So I'm thinking this in the back, where she's got her dotted paper. This on the front, I don't know. Maybe we can. Maybe we can find a way to get that. Nah, maybe not. Looks a little too busy. Anyway, and then something circular with a sentiment and an icon. I mean, we've been doing them on the other ones. This is why I say, like, I try to give some kind of thought to a few different iconic pieces when I'm doing a paper pack, and just roll with it, because once I figure one out, just keep going with it. I'm going to probably get about 25 cards out of this, and I need maybe 3 or 4 different pieces. This one's a little playful, so we'll see what I can think of for this. Maybe it'll be something different, but let me go down to, she's using, it's a My Favorite Things sketch number 399. So this is going to be cut. I want to do a little bit of a reveal, so instead of the 4 1/4, I'll probably do the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. This piece needs to be 2 1/4. I don't know that I have 2 1/4. I think this was just 2 inches. Let's measure this. Here's my free gift from a year prior at my scrap away getaway, which is where I'm at now. So this is just 2 inches. So, you know, I'm not going to get the 2 1/2. Or wait, 2 1/2 was the circle. 2 1/4. I'm not going to get the 2 1/4, but I'm going to put a layer on this. So that's going to beef it up a little bit. So we're not going to be that far off. And then, like I said, the 2 1/2 circle with a sentiment. So let's get these. I have 1, 2, 3 of these and 3 of these. So we're going to get 3 cards, and this is going to bang this out. This one doesn't matter which direction it's going in. Keep thinking I can cut more than one, but you know. So again, I'm gonna give it an 1/8 of an inch off so that I can see the long strip. So we'll do the 4 1/8 first. So I'm thinking, I don't know that I want the layers the same color. One needs to be red and one needs to be green. I don't know if this is green or rooster note. We'll see what we have. What we have over here for what we've used. Ooh, I cut that way too short. Ooh. So now look at that. I don't know, I'm talking in front of my mouth and I got these all too short. This is my 5 3/8. This is just 5 1/8. Ooh. I'm gonna see. I may be able to, you know what? I know how I can fix this. All right, so then this is my 4 1/8. And then this needs to be 5 3/8. So how I'm going to do this, okay? Think of these always, if you make a mistake, how can you fix it and fix it to hide it? So I need this to be 5 1/2, but I really don't need this to be, ooh, I'm thinking, can I piece one here and piece one here? So if this is 4 1/4, I need 4 1/8, and this is 2. I really need, so I think I can use one of these, and then maybe do it like this and piece 2 together, since I don't have, this is not going to be long enough, because the only other option I have is to, I got too much stuff open on this laptop. I want to get those bookmarks out of here. I'm not sure how to do that. My only option is to make this a shorter card and then have a wider reveal with the paper behind it. And I don't think I need to do that. What I think I can do is piece these together and get this card, because see, I can, yeah. Because if this is 2 1/4 at a 4 1/4, so again, this is 2. I only need 2 1/8 inch for this section here and here, which is going to be this paper here. This is 2 inches. So I believe I can get that piece together and get this done how we need it. And then I'll save this piece as a chunk for something else. So one's going to be pieced together, because here's what I need it to be. So I can do that. I put the wrong ones. Oh, jeez, I'm losing it. How big are these? Oh, these are still the 6 inches. Ah, okay. So these still need to be cut down. But basically, this is the panel that I need it to be. So I can just put one here, put this where I need it to be, and this is going to fit in. And we are going to be good. So we need all of these cut down to be 5 3/8. So, you know, don't worry if you screw up. There's always, it's just paper. One of the ladies that was whose house I would go to all the time, that's what she said. What are you afraid of? It's just paper. Because some people would be so afraid to stamp on something or cut on something, like they didn't want to make a mistake. Well, you know what? Sometimes making mistakes are how you're going to learn the best lessons in this. So here we go. And then I'm going to just use these. And we're still going to get our 3 cards. And you know what? If I had more of the snowflake paper, I could have just continued with the other strips I had left. But I don't. And I don't know. I guess I could see if some of the other strips would work, but I want to do some other fun stuff with them. So we're going to piece that together and call that a day. So now, what I have over here, I'm working at this table. These rooms are beautiful. And they put in like a whole dining room table in these places. It seats like 6, it could seat 6 people, but trying to work and reach across, whew, makes it a little difficult sometimes. So I'm thinking if we, and this is the olive paper. This is the Hobby Lobby. It's got like a texture. It's the textured paper in the olive color. And you know what? There's so much color in this. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna save my good Gina K stuff for some other projects. So I'm thinking doing that. And again, the papers are so busy. It doesn't have to be an exact match. So I'm thinking that layering this up with this and calling it a day. So I'm gonna cut my layers and get these glued on paper, and I'll be right back because we don't need to sit here and watch all this. Okay, I started coming up with the final phase of this card, and I wanted to show you. Here's 2 that were done, and this is where I'm going to piece together, and that's the strip. Typically I would kind of fill it in if I needed to, but this piece is going to cover it and you're not going to see any kind of indent. So I just wanted to show you piecing these together what fixing my mistake was going to take, and it really, like I said, isn't going to be a whole lot. So I'm going to get this on here and get ready for the next phase. So what I wanted to come out with for the sentiment is I'm going to put this on here with this sentiment, and I'm going to just do a sprig of evergreens behind, and that's going to finish this card. The Joy is from Honeybee Stamps, and it comes with this stamp of joy, all these sentiments that go coordinating with the joy, like joy to the world, joy this Christmas, holiday season, you could do above with joy. So it also comes with 3 different dies, and I was debating about die cutting, but I don't think this card needs it, but it's great because you can get the just joy, which I have coming up on some of my other cards. You've got the joy that will cut out what you stamp in joy, and then you can also get this dotted outline to go around either one of these. So I love Honeybee Stamps sentiment word dies. Well, Stampin' Dies. I think they are, for just the value and the versatility, are just phenomenal. So you will see I will use them quite a bit. So for this one, I think I'm just going to do joy. I was debating about doing like a joy to this road or whatever it may be, and you know what? I've got to keep it moving. Again, I have a lot planned for this weekend, and I'm into day 2, and I'm getting really frustrated because I'm getting kind of behind. This oval with the stitching is in the Queen and Company's Foundation Set 1. It's the smaller of the two. And the sprig, I realized, is in the Queen and Company's Holiday Foundations. It was, they give you so much in this set. I love this set. I found that when I was kind of going through to see what I wanted to do. So, I felt like that would just give it a little bit. I was looking for something fun. I was looking to see maybe like mittens, because this has a little bit of a Nordic theme to it, but I don't have any mittens with me, shockingly. So I was going to just do the joy on, I was going to trust myself centering it, but the problem was the stamp is not going to give it to me in one stamping, so I am going to have to use the stamp apparatus, and what I'm going to do is use my negative space from cutting this, die cutting one out. I'm going to throw that in there. My stamp is now, it is stained with the red from using red on it first, so that will be good for me to at least get it lined up. For me, because it's round, I can put it any which way, because I can stick it on the card any which way, but I do need to make sure I have it in all the stitching, and I do. So we are going to, oh, there is a little bit of red on it. Just stamp this up. I love this color. I think her stuff just comes out so saturated and vibrant. But like I said, you can see there's a little bit of stuff. So I just want to make sure I get a really deep, dark stamp. And I'm going to, like I said, leave it there for the paper to pull that ink off of the stamp and into the paper. So there's one. You know, and I've used the Stamp-A-Radish for probably a good year now. And I love how these inks, these ink pads, when I try to use the Stampin' Up! Ones on there, now that one pretty much went the first time. These ink pads from Gina K don't seem to leave a lot of mess around the stamp on the plates. You know, I have done as many as 50, 60 cards at a time, and I can understand that when you do that many, you're going to get a mess, but like I said, the Stampin' Up! Ones, I never seem to get in one inking. It always has to be at least two, and it just really leaves a mess on my plates, which I wouldn't care about, but I always seem to stick my sleeve in it, or my hand, or my something, and it leaves a mess. So there's my three, and you know, my paper's still fine. I'm going to use this for something, you know, next. And let me just stick this. I like to take these just right to the sink and get rid of them. My chamois heat nearby, but it just seems to really put a lot of ink into the chamois that I don't need it to be, and I can just take it to the sink and rinse it off. So, like I said, I'm going to just stamp this. I'm going to just adhere this right down. Oh. Yeah, I'm having an issue with my, I probably should put a piece there to keep that from dipping, but I'm dealing with a mess right now. Here we go, that'll be fine. My fine tip is seeming to now come out of my Barely Art glue. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So then I'm going to just, I got it back in there now. I'm going to just, maybe, I'm going to stick the sprig behind and call it a day. So that's what we have for right now. I am thinking that I have other strips, and I could do this same style. You know, obviously these are thinner strips, like I couldn't do it. And I realized in my replay, like, you really don't notice the difference between the green leaf and the brown. But there is two styles here, trust me on that. So I have one of those, the brown, the green, the brown, the key one. I don't really have enough in the strips that I could do this patchwork with one of these other ones. I was thinking maybe I could do it with, you know, with one of these botanical ones, and like such, but I'm really not liking that. I have something else in mind that I haven't done yet, and I'm kind of looking forward to doing. So I'm gonna then finish these off camera and a little bit. And then what I'm left with is one full sheet of the botanical, one sheet of the green, those strips, and these few chunkier ones. So now I'm probably going to be looking at doing cards one at a time because I don't see, I do have the majority of this, so maybe I'll see if I can come up with something that compares or combines something with these, because I'm thinking, what if we did like something with this? I could tone this down, so I'm gonna come back and go into the next, I can't even speak anymore, next sketch. Hi, this is Kristen again. This is what I have done since the last video. I have now been home, and it's in April, and I did not get further with this pack. So please pay attention. I will have a part 2 coming that will finish off these cards and finish off the pack. I still have a little bit of scraps in here. It's really not much. A little bit, basically what you had seen earlier. So keep an eye out for part 2, and we will wrap up this series.